Good morning, everyone. It is Palm Sunday, and I want to welcome you to this our last Lenten prompt. And today we begin into Holy Week, and I'm going to light one candle for us this morning as we get to the climax of display about what God is like. And I'm not going to tell the story today about Palm Sunday, but I do have a little palm here because that story isn't in our kids' Bible. But I do want to just say that on this day where people laid down palms and Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, there's so many clues in that story too about what God is like by watching what Jesus is doing and how on this very it's a big day for the Jews, and there's so many things that Jesus is showing and symbolizing by coming in on a donkey, when like a king would come in with like horses and just like make a big splash of display. And Jesus is again showing us that the way that God leads, the way that God is revealed to us is very different. And so we like to kind of, when we watch movies, well, this is the good guys come barreling in, and God is different. God doesn't come barreling in and force and kill and move with violence. So I could say a lot more about that, but let's just kind of keep that in the background. A few days after the Palm Sunday story, we have this story that in this Bible is titled The Servant King. And here again, we have a picture of what God is like. God is like the kind of king that serves. And even though we don't have kings in our life, I want you to think about people that are like, wow, this person's super powerful, or they do really important things. And let's see if this story kind of shows us what it's like to be like what does a big, powerful person like God do? It was Passover, the time when God's people remembered how God had rescued them from being slaves in Egypt. Every year they killed a lamb and ate it. The lamb died instead of us, they would say. But this Passover, God was getting ready for an even greater rescue. Jesus and his friends were having the Passover meal together in an upstairs room, but Jesus' friends were arguing. What about? They were arguing about stinky feet. Stinky feet? Yes, that's right, stinky feet. Now, the thing about feet back then was that people didn't wear shoes, they wore sandals, which might not sound unusual, except that the streets in those days were dirty. And I don't mean just dusty dirty, I mean like really stinky dirty, with all those cows and horses everywhere. You can imagine the stuff on the street that ended up on their feet. So anyway, someone had to wash away the dirt, but it was a pretty dreadful job. Who on earth would ever dream of volunteering to do that? Only the lowliest servant. I'm not the servant, Peter said. Nor am I, said Matthew. Quietly, Jesus got up from the table, took off his robe, picked up a basin of water, knelt down, and started to wash his friends' feet. You can't, Peter said. He didn't understand about Jesus being the servant king. If you don't let me wash away the dirt, Peter, Jesus said, you can't be close to me. Jesus knew that what people needed most was to be clean on the inside. All the dirt on their feet was nothing compared to the sin inside their hearts. Then wash me, Lord, Peter said, tears filling his eyes. All of me. One by one, Jesus washed everyone's feet. I'm doing this because I love you, Jesus explained. Do this for each other. Now, one of Jesus' friends had made a bad plan. No one else knew what that bad plan was, but Jesus knew, and so did Judas. Judas was going to help the leaders capture Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Go on, Judas, Jesus said. And Judas got up from the meal, left the room, and walked out into the night. Then Jesus picked up some bread and broke it. He gave it to his friends. He picked up a cup of wine and thanked God for it. He poured it out and shared it. My body is like this bread. It will break, Jesus told them. This cup of wine is like my blood. It will pour out. But this is how God will rescue the whole world. My life will break, and God's broken world will mend. My heart will tear apart, and your hearts will heal. Just as the Passover lamb died, so now I will die instead of you. My blood will wash away all of your sins, and you'll be clean on the inside, in your hearts. So whenever you eat and drink, remember, Jesus said, I've rescued you. Jesus knew it was nearly time for him to leave the world and to go back to God. I won't be with you long, he said. You're going to be very sad, but God's helper will come, and then you'll be filled up with a forever happiness that won't ever leave. So don't be afraid. You're my friends and I love you. Then they sang their favorite song and walked up to their favorite place, an Olive Garden. If God is the most powerful in that God created everything, every person, everything that we know, everything that we don't know. And the way that God is powerful is to serve, to get into the dirt and to show us in a symbolic way, by washing the feet, that it's not just our feet that Jesus is washing, that God is washing, but it's that he wants to love and clean and heal and make everything right, inside and outside. That's the kind of God that created the universe, that created you, and wants to be connected to you. So let's remember that this week as we walk into a really important week. And there's going to be some more things that happen that we're going to invite each other as a community to remember and to think and reflect on and to celebrate. So thanks for joining me this morning.